Hi guys, I'm Danny, and I started a Sunday gym because I've noticed lately that people tend to go to colleges and universities without actually knowing why they're there. And afterwards, starting jobs that are unfulfilling. So I'm interviewing different professionals to see what they have to say and share their knowledge and experience with you. I hope you enjoy it. And thanks for being with me. How are you doing, man?
I am doing well. It's great to be here.
It's great to have you here. The program will be focused on three main questions. What do you do for a living? How did you get there? And how did you know that this was the way to go? So that's what you do for a living, please.
Yeah, glad to. So currently, I am a solo business owner and a fractional chief product officer. I think that the latter term probably begs some definition for most people.
Yeah.
So I'll kind of break that down. Fractional basically means I work part-time at multiple companies. It is a little bit different from the consulting model that I think most people would be familiar with, in that I really am an embedded employee of the company. The only difference is that I just don't work there for 9 or 10 hours a day. I work there for 4 or 5 hours a day, and then I work for another company during the rest of the time. The chief product officer implies a product management focus, which is where I have been for about the last 14 years. Product management, and in case folks who are listening are not familiar with that term, basically the job of deciding what a digital product should do, why it matters, how it should get built. So on a daily basis, I might be talking to users, helping to set priorities, working with product designers, engineers, really helping to make sure that the team responsible for building digital products is focusing on solving real problems for real users with solutions that actually work for the business and for the users of those products. So, maybe a decent parallel would be kind of like an architect, right? I'm not the person who's building the building, but I really have to think about how the building will be used, right, in order to communicate those requirements to the people who ultimately will be building the building. So that's effectively what product management does. So looping back, as I said, I am a fractional chief product officer. I help to run product management departments at multiple companies, and I have founded a company that I own and operate that both kind of houses my own services and also offers the services of other fractional employees kind of under my umbrella. So that is where I am today.
I have a side question, and the
Yeah.
reason I have it is for the last 11 or 12 years, the podcasting aside, I've always been in finance and
Mhm.
logistics. That's what I graduated, that's what I do for a living. So for the last 10 or 11 years, I've been working with a program that everybody's telling me that it's very user friendly.
Mhm.
And the program is called SAP. Are you familiar with it?
Not intimately familiar, but yeah, I know the name. I think I know what you're referring to.
Okay, and the reason I'm bringing it up is because only the developers are telling me that it's SAP. I used to work for the National Railway Infrastructure
Mhm.
Company, HPE, local logistics, like eBay and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Now I'm in like big corporation. So how come it's only user friendly only for the developers? This is like, that pop group called U2, when everybody, I don't even think that anybody really like those guys. It's just they popped
Yeah.
up one day, and now everybody think they're pretty amazing, and nobody wants to say it out loud because you could be singled out. But yeah, how do you decide if a product is indeed user friendly or not?
Yeah, I mean, the reality is it depends who you are, right? You
Fair enough.
cannot build a product that is universally appealing to everybody. I mean, even the products that you'd look at that have, kind of the best reputation and widest spread adoption, like an iPhone, for example. There are people that hate iPhones. There are people that prefer, to use an Android device, right? So you really can't build something that is everything to everybody, right? Part of our job, right, as product managers, is probably speaking people who are building software or even hardware products for specific people, is deeply understanding who am I building this for, right? So where you're saying, hey, people are telling me this is a great piece of software, but I don't really buy it.
Yeah.
You may not be, the intended target for that software. It might be, per your example, something that was built specifically with developers in mind. And if you don't fit that exact kind of target user, it may not work for you. And, honestly, that's okay to a large extent. That doesn't mean that the people who built that software did a bad job. It may just mean that it's, there may be a different piece of software that is targeted to you somewhere else out there that would be a better fit.
I'm
But,
not arguing with that. The reason I'm asking was because,
yeah,
I had to learn SAP, and now I'm teaching other people to use it.
yeah,
And I consider something user-friendly when you don't need like a whole procedure so that you
yes,
can work with it. I consider user-friendly something that is logically there. Like,
yep,
Zoom.
yep,
You,
yep,
you can just see the icons, and even if you've never used it, you kind of know what's next.
yep.
SCP is definitely not that, and I hate singling out stuff like that. But I just want to ask that question.
No, you kind of anticipated I was going to say, but there's a whole other side to this, right? Which is a lot of products are, even if they have the right target defined for who they're building for, they simply miss the mark because the reality is building something that is truly usable, that's user friendly, that's intuitive, all these things that you just said, that's really hard.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of work for not just product managers, product designers, UX researchers. There's a lot of folks who have expertise in helping to define how to build something that's truly user friendly, right? What part of the challenge for us thematically is what people say they want is not always what they really want, right? Like we tend to, as users, gravitate towards what we know, right? So, a lot of the time as a product manager, you'll get, a prompt like, build me something like TurboTax. It's like, okay, great. I can build something that looks like TurboTax, but unless I really deeply understand why TurboTax works and how to mold that to, you as a user and your specific use cases, I'm going to end up with something that just has a bunch of clickable interfaces and, it really is not very intuitive or useful at the end of the
Mhm.
day. So there's a lot of this work is really, really deeply understanding your users at not only just a functional level, but honestly down to the emotional level of how are you feeling when you use this, right? How do I, put this in, even if it's widgets, buttons, things on the screen, how do I show them to you in a way that makes sense to you because
Mhm.
of the context that you have, how you're feeling, all these things. Getting that right is super hard, right? That's why there's very few products out there that really
Yeah.
resonate with us.
Uh, I'm guilty. I'm always taking those things for granted. Like, because
Yeah.
when I see something ridiculously user friendly, and again, Zoom's a good example. Skype was a very good example too.
Hmm.
When I see it, I'm like, well, yeah, that's supposed to look that way. No,
Right.
it looks that way because somebody designed it. It's not that it's
Yep.
supposed to be that. And I'm always, yeah, I'm guilty about it, man. I mean, I'm always neglecting those people, and I'm always taking them for granted.
Yeah.
I know I shouldn't.
It it is one of the kind of ironic parts of product management. Being in technology in general. The more you get it right, the more obvious it seems to your users, and honestly, kind of the less credit you get a lot of the time, right?
Yeah.
It's that's super easy to use, and therefore, kind of the natural assumption is then it must have been obvious to build. It's actually exactly the opposite, right? The easier for it is to use for you, probably assume the more work went into it on our end to make it that way.
And I used to work as a tech support when I graduated, and we had that joke like, uh, why am I even paying you guys since everything is working? And the moment something is messed up,
Yep.
like, why the hell am I even paying you if this is not? So you basically, yeah, have it in both ends.
Yep. Yep.
My second question is, how did you get there?
Yeah. So bit of a lengthy journey in my mind, at least. So I'll ground it in present day. I think product management is a role that is very cross-functional, right? When I look at kind of what I do on a daily basis, I have my hand in a lot of different pies, right? I'm doing things that have repercussions in accounting, finance, marketing, sales, really kind of all of the different aspects of a company because, kind of one of the ways you can think about product management is, if you think about a wheel,
Mhm.
we're kind of at the center of that wheel, right? We have connective points to all the different parts of the company because we need to figure out how to build products that work not only for the needs of the company, but also the needs of our users, right? So we really have to understand how everything works. So if I go back to kind of how I got started, I don't think, well, I know actually, that I had no idea what a product manager was, when I graduated from college or even in college. What I knew at that point was I have always just kind of really intrinsically valued being good at many things over being, exceptional at only one, right? So breadth of, expertise has been something that I've been chasing even before I was thinking in these terms, right? So when I was in college, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I started out as a comp sci major. I quickly found out that I'm not a good programmer, so I had to
I mean,
get
you
out of
had
that.
to try.
Yeah, no, I think that was a huge benefit, honestly. Just going through 2 years of that program taught me enough about what is possible with code to allow me to frankly be good at some aspects of my job that require working closely with engineers. I think without that I would be struggling a lot more. So that was very valuable. But I knew that I wanted to do something in business. Honestly, that's kind of as much as I'd thought through it at that point in college. So what I think I did somewhat smartly in retrospect was pivoted into microeconomics with a focus in game theory, which gave me a really strong strategic thinking background that was not, extremely specific to any one function. So I kind of came out of college with two things, a real appreciation for strategy and using data to drive strategic decision making through that game theory background, and a really strong understanding of what is possible to build with technology, even though I wasn't necessarily the one who's good at building it. Right?
You basically got a pretty realistic view of what can and cannot be done.
Yeah, to a
That's
large extent. I
good.
mean, I think I at least set a platform. I wouldn't claim at 21 that I knew what I was doing at all, but
No,
I think
that's
I at
real
least had.
good because at
Yep,
least you had the frame. Because I
yep,
know 21-year-old that really they don't really. It's like a different reality, man.
yeah, yeah. And
When I
I
ask
would,
them what do you want and how do you plan to achieve it, I don't
yep,
even ask how do you plan to achieve it anymore because I know what kind of reply I'm gonna get. But
yeah, yeah,
I talked to a really intelligent young girl. She was 17, 18, already, fine, a teenager.
yep,
But there's a difference between a toddler and a teenager, right?
yep,
And I told her, well, the average salary that a 17, 18, 19 kid can have because most, not all, but most don't have useful practical skills that the employer can benefit from. And that's
yep,
not an insult. That's a
yep,
fact.
yep,
Like when I was 17, I was a pretty good bartender. Right. It
yeah,
obviously not rocket science, but it was
yep,
a skill. And I was able to generate a lot of money for the pub because people wanted to see me.
yep,
And I, made it fun and so on and so forth. It's a
yep,
skill. Not a
yep,
very, unique skill, but a skill nonetheless. They don't even have that. And when I told that young person, again, super smart lady, you can tell when people are stupid or not.
mm,
And I told her what kind of salary she can get at the moment. She said, well, I can't even cover my nights out with my friends with that amount of money.
yeah.
You little.
Yeah, it's a tough situation, I think, when you're getting
Yeah.
started out, right? I mean, I think what I would say from my own experience, right, is if you don't know exactly what you're going to do, right, which was very much my case, I think try to give yourself experiences and skills that keep your options open, right? And I think for myself, right, uh, learning game theory, learning how to do strategy is applicable to a tremendous variety of jobs, industries, et cetera. Uh, that's half of it. Let's call it right. Arming yourself with transferable skills. But I think maybe to your point as well, you have to put that into practice, right? Like
Yeah.
if I know strategy purely in a theoretical sense, nobody's really going to pay me anything to do anything for their company because I can't actually move the needle for them, right? I have to figure. I mean, honestly, whether that's how do I, pull pints more, more efficiently, right? You can apply kind of a strategic lens to almost anything. Uh, Putting it into practice and actually getting experience is what's going to get you paid, right? So, I think if I look at my kind of career path, from 21 to 28, right? I was kind of dabbling around. If you look at my LinkedIn history, right? I moved to a couple different companies, very different areas. Really, I was just trying to understand, like, what do I want to do with this skill set that I have, right? I think I was able to apply it to drive some pretty significant impact at those companies. But part of that journey for me was just learning, okay, this is not really what I want to do. I don't want to manage a warehouse, for example, right? So that kind of got me back to a point where I wanted to really reinvest in the breadth of my skills. So went to Chapel Hill in North Carolina, got an MBA, and that really I think kind of introduced me to some of the kind of aspects of business that I had not really been exposed to yet. For example, I was able to focus in marketing and really kind of shore up that aspect of my skill set that I had zero functional experience in the prior 6 years. So I think that made me even more well-rounded, right? And I was very lucky coming out of business school to get an opportunity to work at Amazon. And I came in through, again, there's kind of broad functionality coming into play. Yet again, they brought me into a rotational program, right? The purpose of the rotational program was, we're going to rotate you through different roles in different parts of the company, and you're going to get broad experience. And I was just like, yep, that's what I want to do, right? Like,
Yeah,
that's what my whole career path has been about. And they put me, I think, through complete luck, into a product management role, in my first role there. And I think within, days, weeks, certainly a month, I was like, this is the role for me, right? I get to touch all these different parts of the company. I get to build things. I get to put, a ton of strategic thinking into play. I can focus on optimization. I can focus on, different aspects of the business, depending on what, the users I'm building for need. It is just something that is, really, I think, uniquely suited to somebody like me who doesn't want to hyper specialize, does want to do many different things, and have a lot of variety in your day. And so that, that really was what, carried the, called the second act of my career, right? Working at Amazon for a long time, working up the executive ranks at a series of companies after that. And that really brought me to, about a year ago, a point where, I felt like I had had a lot of different experiences, building teams, building organizations, delivering products, of varying impacts, certainly, but having gone through a lot of different, unique, challenging situations. And I kind of had a moment where I wanted to sit down and say, what do I want to do here, right? Is my career path kind of following the corporate ladder, which I think within the tech world, the corporate ladder has changed significantly in the last year or so, with the advent of AI coming out, really changing how a lot of roles are even being thought of at a fundamental level. So do I want to try to continue to fight up that corporate ladder, or do I want to take everything I've learned and really try to carve out value for myself? And I think previously, if you'd asked me whether I wanted to start my own company, it would have been absolutely not. Right. I think honestly, success is kind of a drug, and I'd been doing well enough in my my corporate career that I just saw no appeal in diverting from that. But I've gotten to a point where various things in my life have changed, and wanted to strike out on my own. Right. So I now have the dual challenge of not only working for the clients that I work for, but also running a small business effectively, which means, yet again, like, I have to run sales, I have to run marketing, I have to run accounting, I have to do all these things for myself. So I think it's just been kind of a wonderful, almost coincidence in a lot of cases, where the skill set that I built at 21 helped reinforce the skills that I then developed at 28, which then helped fuel that part of my career. But like, I'm using everything that I've learned going back to probably 18 years old in some capacity, right? All of the strategy, all of the understanding. Yep, sorry. So again, go ahead.
You're an absolute minority. A lot of people
that may be true. Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned AI. I have a very interesting story. Maybe you know it, of course. You are familiar with the red phone booths in London, right?
Yes. Yep.
You know the story behind them?
I think I've heard it depending on what you're referring to. I've heard a story about them, but please go ahead.
So when those phones were established, the Post Syndicate destroyed them all because they
Oh,
were afraid that they'd be out of a job. I've never been in Great Britain, and I'm pretty sure that if I go right now, I can get a job in the post office. Uh,
yeah, yep,
so I understand why people are worried about AI,
yep,
but AI is nothing but a tool. If you don't know how to use
yep,
it, it's not going to, be good for you. You can, have the worst AI possible, as limited as possible. I'm sure you can do a lot of things in your sector.
yep,
I won't be able to do with the best one because,
yep,
I don't know, I don't know what to do with it. It's tool. Yes, some part of the workforce will be reduced. Um, but this is all the time. This has been happening ever since the Industrial Revolution.
yeah,
Granted, there were 50, 60 years where people kind of were able to work in the same factory all their life. This
yep,
was a very, very small fraction of human history.
yep,
It was pretty much one, maybe two generations at best. And just because it was recent, people still, are talking about, but this was never
yeah,
the case.
yeah,
So I really want to, there's no reason for you to worry about AI. And in case you want to worry, well, make sure you're not going to be easily replaced. Just, get other skills. It's very
yeah,
simple.
yeah. No, I think you're fundamentally right about that, right? The trap that I see a lot of people falling into, and this is not just, young people by any stretch. I think it's honestly maybe more prevalent amongst, kind of older people. I'll throw myself under the bus like myself, uh, which is AI kind of approximates a human, right? I can talk to it and it seems like it's talking back. So we tend to, our mental model for AI has started to be that it's a person, right? And that I think is very dangerous. If we approach it as it's a tool, as you just said, right? Then I'm going to think about it very differently, right? The one thing that I think is really critical to making sure that we are successful using AI, not being used by AI, is that we don't outsource our critical thinking to the AI itself, right? If I start to approach my job or anything I'm building as a ChatGPT, tell me what to do, and just keep telling me
Yeah.
what to do, keep telling me what to do, and I'm just going to mindlessly follow those instructions, then you're basically outsourcing all of your critical thinking to a glorified hammer, right? And if you think about it in those terms, I wouldn't ask my hammer to do thinking for me. I would think about how do I use my hammer, right? So if we start to think about AI as a tool, as you said, right? I have to do my own thinking to understand how to best use
Yeah.
that tool and what to use it for, and then it can help me, right? And then you can get really good at using it. But
Just
you
like
have
any other
to,
tool.
yeah, yeah, exactly. It's just like any other tool. It's just a really powerful, cross-functional tool, but it's still a tool. Exactly.
A college professor of mine once said that he's not worried about artificial intelligence because he has natural stupidity in him. So it's
Yep.
always going to prevail. He was a very charming dude.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hopefully he's right. There are certainly people that think AI is going to take over the world in I don't know, either a benevolent or not so benevolent way.
Well, good luck with
Uh,
that. I mean, we've been, the dominant species, and we don't even know what to do with the world. So,
yeah,
yeah,
it's true.
GG.
That's true.
My third question is, how did you knew that this was the way to go? You did highlight it
Yep.
but in all fairness, as you said a while ago, if you asked yourself, would I start a business?
Yeah.
The reason I'm asking this question is because you obviously had a lot of skills, you have a lot of knowledge, you've
Yep.
been around, you know what's going on. You could have chosen any number of different options. Especially in the United States, like the options in the European Union are huge, a
Yep.
lot. But
Yep.
in the US, it's even, better, bigger.
Mhm.
So you could have you had a lot of options, but you decided to go that way. Why? Was it a gut feeling? Was it an advice from a friend with
Yep.
observation of the situation? What happened?
Yeah. So, I'll be pretty candid here. I think origination of starting my company was not, not this like multi-year plan that I'd, written down on a paper and dreamed about. It was very opportunistic, right? I was kind of looking at where I was in my career, the job market, all these factors, and just trying, again, the theme for everything I've said, trying to keep my options open, right? So, I was looking at full-time opportunities. I was looking at, potential career pivot. And one of the things that I wanted to at least explore was, starting my own company, right? I thought I'd built up enough understanding of what that would take and, enough experience to make it work. And so I wanted to try it. But honestly, at the beginning, let's call it for the first 6 months, I was really testing a hypothesis, if you will, right?
Yeah.
So, that was a large part of it. Just, let's see if this works. And that did not mean in any way that I was, couching my effort, right? Like this was full effort, to try to make it work.
Oh, definitely.
Which I think is required, right? If you're going to start your own business in any sense. But I think, it is important to kind of approach these things as hypotheses in my mind, because there's a high rate of failure, right? When you're starting anything that risky or unknown, right? And if you're going into it with, if this doesn't work out to me, then I am a failure, or what am I going to do with myself, or, any of these things, like, that's a pretty potentially damaging mindset. I wanted to go into this with, I'm going to learn something from this regardless, right? Even just 6 months of effort of trying to start a business means that I have to learn a ton about marketing, sales, all these things I've already talked about. So that's benefit, right? I'm going to learn and have skills in my tool belt, things that I can talk about, things that I can, bring to other companies, even if this doesn't work out, right? Obviously, silver lining, it has, worked out in a large way, at least so far. And I think, a lot of that is, both because of the, the cross functionality, the fungibility of the skill set that I have built, which has definitely helped me in a lot of senses. But I think the other thing that, I think is really important is I have developed through being a product manager and building products at huge companies that take, multiple years of effort, a really strong tolerance for dealing with ambiguity and, not knowing whether what I'm doing today is actually going to pay off in 6 months, but being okay with that, right? And still, not losing any sort of momentum or inspiration because of that fact, which I think is, again, something that, anybody can build in any role theoretically. I think is really important to success in large endeavors like this. Sorry, you're going to say.
True, but in all fairness, I mean, huge part, yeah, you can correct me if I'm wrong, of course, but a huge part of your success is because of the experience that you already have. Like without that experience, I don't think you'd be as good as you are.
Arguably, but I think what I'm articulating worked for me today is something that has at least had echoes in the past, right? I think when I was 21, 18, whatever, right, I was not undertaking these like 6-month, 12-month long giant endeavors in any sense, but I think you can still try to flex that muscle, right? Do something today that you're not getting immediate feedback on. Do something that is hard. Like I'll bring in just kind of a personal pursuit of mine, right? For a long time, I ran marathons and ultra marathons, right? That's something to me where you can't, you cannot finish a marathon in the first mile, right?
Yeah.
Inherently, you have to, it doesn't matter how the first mile goes. You have to continue the other 25 if you're going to finish, right? So things like that really teach you to play the long game, to be tolerant of short-term pain or uncertainty or whatever in pursuit of a longer-term goal, which I think really again, thematically that sets you up for doing things like starting your own company. A little closer to your original question, right? How did I know that this was the right thing? I think fundamentally, going through that process, like not every day is good, not every week is good. Like there's a lot of times when it's like I'm doing all this thing and I'm getting zero positive signal back. Like, is this really going to work? And I think just being able to get up every morning and still be excited about doing this, and having the intrinsic motivation to work from 7 a.m. to 10 at night on it, which probably sounds horrible to a lot of people, but that was like, I was that excited about it, right? I look for those signals of, am I pushing myself to accomplish something here that I probably wouldn't, work that hard or go to that extent if it was somebody else telling me to do that, right? I think that is, at least for me, a signal of I'm doing something that really excites me, right? And that I'm willing to push through all that pain and difficulty and, to get to the long-term, payoff at the end. So, I don't think I don't look at this through rose-colored glasses of where, some people are like, if you do something you love, you never work. I'm like, no, a lot of this is work. There are days and weeks where I'm like, oh my God, this is hard, right? But when I zoom out and look at, am I still motivated? Am I still, excited about what I can continue to accomplish in this space? Like that's my answer, right? Not so much the pain in the moment, but the reward overall.
Fair enough. That's life in general. You know,
Yep.
when you go to college, when you start your first job, you're not going to, get the fruits immediately. You're gonna have to wait.
100%. Yep.
Brian, I have a fourth question, and
Okay.
I never, I'm always keeping it for the end, and I never put it in the invitation because I just love the reaction,
Yeah.
and it's always beautiful. And so far, I have never had the same reply at all.
Okay.
All 100 something interviews I've done so far. If you have one advice for my audience, people that are sitting right now, like, is this job for me? Is this college thing for me? Is this university
Yep.
for me? If you have one advice for those people, what would it be?
Yeah. I think it's kind of very thematic of what I've already said, honestly,
Yeah.
which is, try to detach a little bit from other people's definition of success and experiment with your life as much as you can, right? I think the way that you find ultimately what's exciting and the right fit is by, frankly, trying a lot of things that aren't the right fit, but you can still learn a lot from those experiences. You can still take that, whatever expertise you're able to build in those roles or opportunities, to other things. And I think that only strengthens you, right? If you are, really laser focused on only doing one thing one way for the rest of your career, I mean, maybe that appeals to some people, but that's also very fragile, right? If that thing gets replaced by AI or whatever, right? You may be in a really, challenging position. Whereas if you have intentionally, particularly at the earliest stages of your career, sought out things that seem scary and not for you, and uh, questions of where would I even go with this career path? Like, experiment with those things early and in the lightest way that you can, right? Volunteer for something, take a short-term gig, just get that experience of what is this, and then be very thoughtful about what did you like, what did you not like, right? Even if it's a job where you didn't like it, there's probably still something you can take away from that. I liked the hours, I liked the dynamic of working with my boss, whatever. It, takes something away that you can say, okay, now that's what I want to add to my wish list, right? For the career that I'm going to have at some point in the future, right? And you can start to put together this, this list of not specific to company, industry, title, but criteria of a job that makes sense for you. And that's how I got to where I am, honestly, right? As I said, if you'd come to me and said, do you want to own your own company? I would have said, no. When I looked at the criteria that I had for myself on paper, right? I want, independence. I want a good lifestyle. I want to, make a decent amount of money, like, and a lot of personal things that I won't get into. But I looked at that and I was like, oh no, this actually is a good fit. I just wasn't thinking about it in those terms, right? But I think, again, all that experimentation, all that, thoughtfulness of what do I like, what do I not like, what worked for me, what didn't. As long as you can approach it with an open mind, like that can bring you to very unexpected and ultimately, really fruitful places.
Absolutely. And with that said, Brian, thanks for being with me. Please send me all the links that you'd like to, be in the description of the video. And I really appreciate you being here, my friend.
Yeah, thank you, Danny. It was a pleasure.
Likewise. Bye. Guys, I hope this one was useful. Please follow the channel on YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, Gap, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Ring the bell and all the good stuff. Have a nice week ahead, and I'll see you next Sunday.